Starmine.
Hey everyone, welcome to the StarminePodcast. I'm David.
I'm Nick.
I'm John, Error1355.
And we have a special guest, possibly new full-time member of the StarminePodcast, the mysterious and enigmatic Bemis.
Hey, I won't be back. I probably will be next week. Anyway, hey.
So we had a good time. We actually all, John and Nick met for the first time within the last time we had a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It was exciting.
Bemis was there as well.
Turns out
So was
neither
I.
of them are robots or aliens.
That's yet to be determined.
Yeah, it's
Well-
not like we dissected Nick or John or anything like that.
I mean, we didn't have the funding, so we got to do what we got to do.
But yeah, that was on the 4th of July. We had a small party at my place, and it was a good time, I would hope, everyone.
I
I'd
enjoyed
say
it.
It was the worst experience of my life.
We all had a better time
Cool.
than the city of Chicago.
Yep. So, what did, besides that, on the 4th of July, what did you guys do this week? How about you, Nick?
Oh, I have been playing the crap out of Deus Ex Human Revolution. I bought it on the Steam sale, as I said in the last episode, and holy crap, like, it's like the perfect game for me. It has like a combination of like all my favorite games. It has like elements from Metal Gear, Mass Effect, like all sorts of FPSs like Half-Life. It just feels like this conglomeration of awesomeness for me.
Robocop?
Yeah, all these cyberpunk elements are in there. It like has Blade Runner, like a Blade Runner feel to it. And so far, I mean, I've played a bit of the original version on PS3 and I couldn't really get into it, but like now playing it on PC, it's just one of those games that's like way better to play on PC.
Cool.
Yeah. I recommend it highly. I'm
Is that all
12
you did?
hours in. Yeah, that's pretty much all I did other than play Minecraft with Bemis and a little bit of more of Ocarina of Time at my friend's place.
Cool. How about you, Bemis?
Well, in a similar to Nick's now playing Ocarina of Time, I am only just now playing Dark Souls, thanks to Nick having purchased it for me during the Steam sale. I
you're
also purchased Age of Empires 2, which was a good idea because it's pretty much my teenage years revived in a horrible glory that reminds me how bad I am at games that I once was good at. But, you know, playing a lot of Minecraft too, so there's that.
Cool. John?
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone! Right, we know. God.
So much Hearthstone. He was
played
playing
more.
it at the party.
Yeah. I whipped out a tablet and started playing Hearthstone in the middle of a party. I'm
Like
an
a
asshole.
badass.
That wasn't all that was whipped out. Hi-oh!
I wasn't there for that part.
Also,
Yeah,
his
you're
cell phone,
unconscious.
which has Hearthstone on it as well.
No. Not yet.
Eventually. He's working for it.
They
Well,
don't have it out yet.
What else did you do at that party, John? I hear you watched something for the first time.
Maybe. We all sat around and tried to watch Star Wars.
Trying
So,
to.
Yeah, you've heard it here, folks. John has finally seen kind of Star Wars.
Some
What
of
did
Star
you,
Wars.
on the whole, what did you think of Star Wars, John?
It held up pretty well, I think. You know, even though... Well, how old is that? In the 70s?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, that... I mean, special effects, of course, you can tell it's older, but it doesn't seem that old.
It's a good movie.
I'm going to do something now, and you're going to hate me for this, but because of all the distractions that were going on, because it was in the middle of a party, I want you to summarize the plot of Star Wars in the best method you can.
Okay, so it starts off with Princess Leia in a place, and they do that recording that you see all the time parodied everywhere with that robot.
R2D2, yes, continue.
Please go.
Then then they eventually end up on a different planet. I think I couldn't understand or hear anything going on here. I don't know what planet is that.
Just don't worry about it. Just keep going.
Okay.
Just keep going.
And there's something about blue milk.
Pretty sure it's the Combine homeworld.
Just don't worry about it. Keep going. Just keep going.
Then he finds out, or I guess he buys a robot off of someone.
All right.
Finds out that they're... this is a train
Just
wreck.
keep going. You're fine. You're fine.
So if he hears part of the message that was recorded by Princess Leia, and he asks his his uncle?
Something like that.
Sure, keep going.
His uncle about it, and they jump to the conclusion that he knew his father, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
All right. Keep going.
It gets a little hazy here. I think he runs into him. Doesn't he just run into him out of the nowhere? Like,
Sure. Let's keep
Yeah,
going.
totally.
this whole thing is foggy. Holy shit! I didn't realize how distracting it was.
No, don't worry about
There
it.
was a screaming infant.
Yeah.
This is gold. Keep going, John.
So they're on a planet, I guess, being chased by something, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he's all like, "Yo, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi," and he's like,
That's exactly
"Oh,
what
okay."
he said. That's exactly what he
Alec
said.
Guinness
I believe
comes
that's
on
a direct
screen.
quote.
Alec Guinness comes on screen, lifts back his hood, and says, "Yo, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi."
And Alice Guinness somehow cared more during that moment than he did during the entire movie.
And then
Anyways.
it moves forward until him explaining the Force and giving him a lightsaber. Does he give it to him at that point, or just show it off
Yes.
to him? Okay,
Yes, he
gives it
does.
to him. Then they're in different like their home gets destroyed. His home. He decides, okay, well, time to go somewhere, do whatever, have fun, and leaves.
Yeah.
Then they rent a ship.
They go to the
close
Enterprise. Not,
Yeah.
not the Enterprise you think. A different Enterprise. You know, the
It's
one
not
where you
the
rent.
Enterprise that you needed.
All right. Anyways.
And then
keep
they
going.
end up at the Death Star? I don't know what the hell's going on. Then, yeah, I don't know how they ended up there. That was there was a whole lot of distraction going on there. Oh, this is really bad.
Don't worry about it. You're
Love
doing
it.
great.
Keep going. Please keep going.
And everyone's
going.
everyone's in a control room. Stormtroopers come out, shoot things.
Hang on. They
Did I skip
come out
something?
and they fail at shooting things.
Okay,
Go on.
okay, I'll give you that.
Anyways, keep going.
They find Princess Leia. They come out alive somehow, and then they come back and blow it up. Okay.
That. See, John, the reason I wanted to ask you to do that is because you've lived in a pop culture vacuum for that thing, and just hearing that is just the strangest thing in the world to everyone who's ever seen Star Wars. All right,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, most people would be like, "You watch Star Wars and that's what you have to say? Who are you?"
I mean, think of it as like someone who's a native like Spanish speaker, or like hearing someone make fun of Spanish. It's familiar, but like you have no idea what they're talking about. It's the strangest thing in the world.
Yeah.
All right, so does anyone have questions to quiz John on to see if he remembers?
Oh, this is
I
going to
have-
be good.
Nick,
what
you
were the
start.
soldiers? Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I got a question for John. What is the Force?
Oh, it's he had like a nifty little phrase for it or something like that. Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like what, energy all around you or something like that.
Thank God we didn't watch episode 1.
Yeah, that's pretty close, John. What were the soldiers called?
What are they? Are they stormtroopers?
Yes,
Right,
yes,
okay.
they are.
That's so bad.
Okay, Bemis, you got any?
Here's an important question, John. Where did they come from?
Who's they?
They. Where did they come from?
That is way too vague.
Nick, where do they come from?
Nick's busy dealing with his air conditioning unit, it sounds like.
Yeah,
They
there
came
is
from
something
behind.
going on really
They
badly
came
upstairs.
from behind.
What was your
Yeah.
question, Bemis?
Get out. You're fired.
Oh no.
Nick's fired.
I think that was a failure. Whatever, go on.
I was going to say, most of this is going to be cut out right now.
Yeah,
so,
this is
A
gonna be
lot of
cut
the
out.
fans just got really sad because they're all like, I know! I played those Warcraft games in which they quoted and referenced that. I know the answer! And they're like, oh, but you guys.
what?
How many people do you think listen to this?
Pretty much what I'm saying is when Porkins dies, because Porkins died, and it's so funny. Anyway, so moving on.
What? Just what? Okay, never mind. Go on.
I don't know.
How confused you are just highlights how little of the movie was, like, comprehensible during the chaos.
Bemis, I'm confused right now, so I don't think you are speaking complete sentences.
Yeah, I don't think he
Well,
is.
I'm always confused, so that might have something to do with it.
Ugh.
So, do you remember the name of the planet they were on at the beginning of the movie? Luke and Obi-Wan?
No.
Do you remember what its main features were? Like
Deserty?
geographically. Okay, we're
Deserty?
making progress here. We're making progress.
Deserty.
Do you remember the name of the city they go to?
There was sand.
I do not know.
You do not. Okay. It was Mos Eisley. Does that sound familiar at all?
Not one bit.
Oh,
my
God.
goodness.
Okay.
Well, now
This
this,
was
is going downhill quickly.
All right. Anyone have any more quiz questions for John?
Yeah, I got a question for him. Do you remember the scene where Han Solo goes up to Jabba the Hutt?
No?
Good.
It wasn't in that version.
Because
Don't
it
worry
wasn't
about
in that version.
Hey,
If
quick
you remembered
question.
it, then that would have been weird.
Who shot first?
The not alien.
The not alien?
it. Harrison Ford.
Yeah, okay, ding ding ding, he got it.
I could just shorten that question to who shot?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Are you planning on watching the other ones, John?
Yes, I might rewatch the first one first.
Episode 5 is the best.
I don't blame you at all for doing that. That was kind of a shit show. Bemis was stampeding around everywhere in the middle
I'm
of
sorry, my
trying
child,
to watch this.
she was being a child. What can I do about that?
You were being a child with her, but that's
Well,
understandable.
That's part of being a parent, is being a child.
All right, let's not. This isn't parent podcast hour. All right, just
Yeah,
calm
that-
down. on
Throw
that
the baby in the washer.
No, don't do that. Don't throw her to the dingoes like that woman in Pittsburgh.
They were African wild dogs. All right?
Dingoes,
And
same difference.
Don't offend the. Okay. This is
Basically,
probably
what
gonna
I'm
get-
saying is that
Yep.
woman is an idiot. I would never, ever hurt my daughter. I love her. Continue.
That's great. I'm cutting out that. So, John, do you have any predictions as to where the story is going to go?
Eventually, at one point, you're going to find out that Luke's father is Darth Vader.
Spoilers. Yes, yes, you are.
You probably didn't see that in a million pictures on the internet.
And you said something. You said something while you were watching it that I found kind of interesting. You said, that I finally get some of these pop culture references now. Like how much of that happened that you were watching this movie and realizing that thing you had heard for years was from this?
Well, I already knew a lot of them were from the movie, but it was having the context. Like, I find your lack of faith
Disturbing.
disturbing. That's the word. Like, I heard that before. A bunch of other ones that I can't think off the top of my head. But,
May the Force be with you, maybe?
well, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
That one I figure is going to be said more than once.
And it was.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it is a lot.
Cool. So you liked it, though, overall?
Yeah, I have no negative thoughts on it.
Of the parts you saw, what would you rate it out of 10?
I can't give a rating. I need to, be able to watch it.
Incomplete. Gotcha. All right. Well, did you do anything else for your week in a little bit?
I got a little further in Apollo Justice, or not Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney. The 3DS version. I'm gonna try to beat a game, like, at the end of this month, before July ends.
I want to say, I need to get my ass back into the freaking Ace Attorney series. I haven't played since the third game, I want to say, back when I had a handheld. And now I have 3DS again, and I've been enjoying the cuss word out of a lot of games, and that one, I just need to get back into that. I need to do all the Apollo Justice games, I need to do some more Ace Attorney. I just need to get it and be happy and get some freaking Steel Samurai in my life.
I have a disappointing thing to tell you about Steel Samurai.
Less Steel Samurai?
I don't think he shows up in the last
That's
two
okay.
games.
He was kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
Right.
Apollo Justice is a little bit downhill in comparison to the third game, which is probably the best one they've ever made. I've still yet to know about this game yet, but it seems like it's building up pretty good.
Yeah, well, they're a pretty solid series, you know. I want to now take this moment to move an aside and say, because some of us may or may not be aware, happy birthday to Nikola Tesla, the inventor of everything you know and love.
What?
Well,
What?
Well, it'll be his birthday when the episode comes out, but whatever. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's currently the 10th of July, so if you're listening to this, you're listening to it late. Idiots.
Spoiler alert, it's the 10th of July.
It's the 10th of July. 10 days after the beginning of July. Happy birthday, Nikola Tesla, who invented everything we know and love.
The fuck just happened? I was in the middle of talking about games, dude.
You got taken to school, John.
I kind of just totally derailed that train, and nothing Dave could do could stop it.
Except cut this out.
I work with trains, everybody. That's a little inside behind the scenes look.
That's
Anyways,
his job.
Anything else, John?
No.
Just more Hearthstone.
Oh well, I played more Watch Dogs. More people died.
Well,
like main characters, or like you just killed people in the game.
You know, I walked up to someone. I found out, you know, the citizens operating system that watches everyone is like, there's going to be a crime here. So I walked over, watched them. Like a guy pushed another person, so I shot him in the head, and I got bonus points for it. So, you know, that vigilante. You know, when someone's pushing someone, just shoot them in the head.
America.
Yep.
Fuck
Chicago.
yeah.
Chicago.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, that's so sad, considering what just happened. What was it like?
just happened?
9 people killed, 53 people injured. There were a whole bunch
my
of
bad.
shootings. Pretty much Chicago was being Chicago over the 4th of July weekend. Yeah, well, moving right along, let's not talk about that.
I shot
Way
people
too
in
depressing.
Chicago. In a video game.
In
Yeah,
a video,
really
it's a
depressing.
good thing you added in a video game, because really there are investigations going on right now, John. You do not want to get a phone call.
They're already
I haven't
calling.
left the state since earlier in this month.
Well, you're going to need to prove that.
There's probably security cam footage at the fireworks place,
Yeah.
as long as it lasts more than a week. As for me, since none of you seem to
I was
care
about to
or
ask.
Dave, what did you do this week? Please enlighten us.
I want to hear from Nick.
David, what did you do?
Well, Nick, and everybody else, that's less important to me.
So,
I
John,
played more Metal Gear Solid, and
Yeah.
I finished Act 1, and I completely forgot that they changed the game, that you don't have to install between acts anymore.
Did they
And
really?
Yeah.
So at like 2 in the morning, when I thought the game was going to go start installing and I was just going to like leave it there and go to bed, the next thing starts and I can't do anything but not, skip the cutscene and the everything. So I'm just like, God damn it, not just sit here for another 25 goddamn minutes. And
The cutscenes are
Yeah.
really long and full.
they are a little
90
we're talking
minutes
about
to the
Gears
end.
4?
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
about 4.
Okay, you just said Metal Gear Solid, so I knew the specification.
Which
Well, sorry.
There's only one.
One
Metal
of
Gear
us
Solid
wasn't
that
here
has
last time.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I my only thing about the whole thing was I wanted to spend more time in that little Middle Eastern village.
Yeah, I kind of liked it.
I feel like I'm going to feel like that for all of the acts, except for probably Eastern Europe, just because I know how long it is.
Oh.
And sneaking in a battlefield is the weirdest thing ever. All of my Metal Gear Solid reflexes just don't apply anymore, and everyone can see a lot further because they got rid of like the specific cones of vision. I did see some of the seams of the game. I walked up to a spawn point for PMC soldiers as they spawned. Like they literally dropped onto dropped from like the half a foot onto the ground, immediately saw me and started shooting.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do about this?
You're supposed to be somewhere else.
I think I remember
Apparently.
stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. I did pretty well once I got to the camp, though. I mean, I got through that without being any alerts. I got past the frogs without too much problems. I accidentally killed someone the first time through, but the second time through, I didn't kill them that time. So, but I got the frog statue because I'm the kind of person who doesn't ever try to kill anyone in Metal Gear Solid games because I'm cool like that. But I do feel kind of dirty about just like looting the dead bodies. That's that one's kind of weird.
What do you think about the Drebin shop?
The Drebin shop? I'm fine
Yeah.
with it. I've already gotten the Mosin Nagant, the ends tranquilizer sniper rifle thing. Next, I'm gonna get the Tengashima, and past that, I don't think I'm gonna buy anything else from it unless the railgun's in there.
It will
Because,
be.
as I said, I
Well,
only use tranquilizer shit.
spoiler alert. No, I won't tell you.
David's already seen the entire game.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, you'll get the
within 2
railgun
days-
eventually.
Within 2 days of its release, John had finished the game, and I had sat next to him for 18 hours and watched it. So yeah,
It was a weird time.
it was a whirlwind.
You know, that
That-
reflects pretty similarly to my experience with Nick and MGS4, in which my first encounter was I watched him play the whole goddamn game,
This is
and then
true.
eventually I played it myself. But, you know, it was pretty goddamn good. I think we stayed up all night.
Yeah, we
all
stayed up
3
till-
hours.
Yeah, in an apartment on
13th Street,
13th
in an
Street.
unnamed city, in an unnamed state, in an unnamed country.
Yeah, and
Afghanistan.
We stayed up, yeah, and we stayed up till 5 a.m. And then we watching the 2 hour long end cutscene, and it was great.
But yeah, I had a good time with the first act. The Octo camo is something I really liked. I liked the camo thing in Metal Gear Solid 3, but it was a little cumbersome to always keep changing shit. And the fact that you can just kind of stop for a second and put it on is pretty cool. I did end up rolling around in the barrel. I forget which button it was, but I I was just rolling down the middle of the street, right where that striker comes in, right after you get it, and everyone was like, "What the?" And then the just snake vomited. It was great.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a good time. I really enjoyed the first act, and I forgot how awesome and kind of ridiculous the Beauty and the Beast unit was, and I also did not remember the shadowy form of Psycho Mantis behind Screaming Mantis.
Yeah.
In that first
Oh, yeah,
cutscene with
that's
them.
right.
I have to agree on, it. Once you leave an act, you kind of feel like it was too short in a way. It's just so different than any other Metal Gear where you're still in the same environment for the whole game.
Yeah.
I think this is
And,
partially.
I think. Go ahead.
I think this is partially the reason MGS5 is going to have you be like, well, you can just go back there whenever you want.
That is literally exactly what I was going to say, Nick.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just saying. I think you're exactly right. I think it was kind of I think it's going to have a lot of different geographical regions. Metal Gear Solid 3, you're in a jungle environment, then you're in a mountainous area, then you're in a base, and they're all pretty well, they're all pretty well isolated from one another. To the point where you literally can't get back to the other once you get to the one, and it's kind of I imagine Metal Gear Solid 5 is going to have a lot of different geographic features, like maybe a mountain. We've already seen a desert. Maybe a little bit of a jungle, maybe sort of an industrial area akin to Metal Gear Solid 1, maybe a bit of a marine area. I mean, we've already seen, home base kind of looks like, or what the mother base looks a lot like the big shell, So I think that's going to be something he's trying to do, since I mean the Middle Eastern location was great. I mean it's still relevant today, of course, but it was really relevant at the time with the Iraq and Afghan wars and everything that was going on. And it was kind of like a glimpse. I mean, you were obviously supposed to root for the rebels, but really you don't know what the cause of the war was, which is what I thought was the really interesting part about it. Even the first time I watched it when John was playing. Was that, like, you're not sure. I mean, you could be helping the rebels and they could be, like terrorists, trying to kill innocent people, but you never know because you're just seeing a battle out of context,
That's a really good point. And speaking about, like, military stuff as it goes, it's really interesting to set things in the Middle East because it's been a conflict zone for like hundreds of years, and it's probably not going to stop being a conflict zone. And I think what we're seeing in modern events today, not to get into that, shows that. And the fact that, Metal Gear Solid fits perfectly in that. And even when you go back in time to set MGS5, you're talking about a conflict that has been existing back during that time. It's not like it's hard to, juxtapose that over that, I guess. It makes sense. So I'm really excited for what's going to show up in MGS5, and especially for what's going to happen with home base and all that, because it's really cool to have a base that you can expand in your own way based on your own actions, and without getting into the conversation about what makes a game open world or why is today's open world different from open world 10 years ago.
That was last week.
Hey, that was our subject last week.
Was it? How the hell did I miss that?
Yeah.
I would have had a lot to say. Pretty much, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that can happen, and I'm excited to see it happen.
Random fact-checking question. When is Metal Gear Solid 4 set?
2014.
I was going to say, I thought it was this year.
I think, 2000. I think it's.
How old is Snake in it? Because I can tell you from that. He was born in
35.
No,
I
he
think?
was 35 in Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, right.
Because he was like 30 in Metal Gear Solid, and then.
Okay, so he's like 40 something.
Yeah, so it was pretty close. Was it 2014?
That's correct. I just did a quick Googling for you guys. That's correct.
That's weird. Where's
Metal
my
Gear
giant
Rising
robots?
is 2018.
Well, I mean,
Yes,
there's
government.
crisis about that. Maybe they've got them and we don't know. Or maybe the Eastern European chapter is about the Ukraine right now.
I doubt that.
Yep. It's they're gonna suddenly Cherno Alpha from Pacific Rim's just gonna bust out into
pretty much.
into the war
It's
effort.
little known to everybody else in the world. Russia's got some goddamn Metal Gears hidden back there somewhere, and Vladimir Putin's just hiding that shit from us all.
Give that man a gecko.
But yeah, anyways, before we rant about Metal Gear Solid and Putin for the next hour and a half, moving on. I also, John, I know you've read this book. I just finished, like literally minutes before we started here, 2001: Space Odyssey, the book.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
It was different. I've seen the movie and I love Kubrick. He's fantastic and wonderful, and probably one of my favorite directors.
Well,
he is one of my favorite directors. I'm just gonna be certain on that. But it was strange. The version of the book I had actually was really interesting. It was the 25th anniversary of the movie, and it had a foreword by Arthur C. Clarke in it where he talked about working with Kubrick to write the book. I'm gonna give this a little factoid for people that don't know. The book was actually written in tandem with the screenplay and the movie because they wanted. I guess they met kind of on weird circumstances. I forget the exact story, but they wanted to work together because they knew of each other. But in the end, what happened was they realized Arthur C. Clarke knew more about writing novels than he knew about writing screenplays. So they kind of worked together on the screenplay and wrote the novel that the screenplay would be based on. And it kind of fleshes out a lot more, and it's a really cool book. I liked it a whole lot. The ending is about as weird as the movie is, but it's paced a little better, I guess you could say, which is saying something for a book. I believe also, you guys can correct me if you've seen the 2001 movie, but Hal is also characterized a little differently in the way, or for the reason that Hal kills Frank and tries to kill Dave. In that there was like a logical moral quandary that was going through Hal, and the only solution came to be destroying the humans before the problem became big enough that they had to deal with it.
I have to admit,
Anyone remember?
I'm going to admit at this time that I have not seen the entirety of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I have seen parts of it. I have not read the book either. I feel like I should fix those two things.
I'm in the same boat.
I read the book. I did not see the movie.
Are you asking me?
I'm the rare one.
I remember it being more like Hal decides that that like the humans are they're damaging the integrity and of the mission, so that they have to be eliminated. But I mean that could just be like pop culture's filter, like telling me that's what it was. But I don't remember for sure. But I remember reading it and thinking that's not what I remember happened in the movie. So
Perhaps
that was
maybe we could have another movie night like the Star Wars movie night and have somebody repeat it afterward of what they happen to remember.
Oh no! I think that would.
All
be
I
even
would talk
worse.
about is yes, the music is fantastic. Yes, it is.
The thing I will say about that movie is that it's all very, very beautiful and very, very well shot and well done, and all the special effects are incredible, but it is so goddamn slow to watch. I never usually fall asleep during movies except for The Corpse Bride, but I very nearly fell asleep during that movie, and it wasn't because it was boring. It was because it was just it was nearly a chore to watch, just because it was like watching an art gallery, like that. There's a bunch of beautiful things in it, but you have to sit there and like watch things slowly happen. And I guess I just don't have the patience for that because I'm a dumb asshole.
Yeah, you're an uncultured prick. It's pretty much what you're saying. Why don't you go listen to Coldplay and fucking goddamn Justin Bieber, you shitbag. Whoa. Here, I'll be over here and listen to Bach and freaking Monteverdi. You go do your thing.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, go on.
I guess other than 2001, though, I ordered online The Story of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I realized a while ago while talking to John's brother Kevin that the reason I like Dynasty Warriors so much was actually the story, which is kind of funny since there's so very little of it in the games, but it was just kind of fascinating. And so I ended up buying a 4-volume set of it, and I'm going to start reading that on Saturday when I fly to Memphis again. But other than that, I've been playing Minecraft on Kevin's server, John, along with Nick and Bemis a little bit, and I've also been playing a game called Sunless Sea, which is I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like a bad thing, but I promise that it's actually kind of a good thing. It's an early access game that I found on Steam, but it's a boat strategic sort of thing where you work the economy, you do shipping, and you fight off pirates and giant flocks of bats and giant crab monsters. There seems to be some sort of mythos surrounding the environment, but I'm not really 100% sure what's going on. I guess the guy had a game beforehand that he's kind of based this world off of, but I've never played it, and I don't know if I care to. But it's been a fun little game. It's a permadeath game, because I don't want to use the word roguelike because it's not very roguelike. But it's permadeath. But you get to like set up your character. Right now it's very, very simple stuff, but it gives you enough variety and the characterization doesn't really matter. I haven't gone very far with it yet, but there seems like there's a lot to do. There's some interesting mechanics where, like, not only can you have physical resources, but you can have like social resources, like news of London. You can have like you have like you start getting nightmares on the open ocean. You get like glimpses of the surface because it's like an underground sort of waterway thing. Just like stuff like that that you can actually trade for goods and like stuff like that. And it's a fun little game. I got it on Steam because it was on sale and pretty cheap. And it looked pretty interesting.
What was the name of that again?
I was Sunless Sea.
Sunless Sea, and you'd recommend that for people to just give it check it out, try it out, see what they think.
I mean, I'm not going to be the one that says that it's for everyone because it's definitely not. But I mean, watch the trailer. It looks like a very simple game. If you guys have ever played Sid Meier's Pirates, it's a little similar to that. The combat is a little bit boring at first until you kind of get the pace of it. It's a little slow, and then you realize that it's actually like you have to think really fast. It's sort of a turn-based, but like a time-based resolution. So you have like a bunch of actions where you pick one, and it takes like 4 seconds before it actually happens. It has a 4-second warm-up time, and they are doing the same sort of thing at the same time, but you can only see their current one, where you can like queue up to I think about 5 actions. So it's a bit of planning ahead. It's a bit of trying to guess what the enemy's going to do. And at first I thought it was kind of like boring and weird, but that's because I was only fighting flocks of bats, which are pretty easy to kill. Once I got to the harder enemies, I kept dying a whole lot because until I finally sort of got the hang of how things are supposed to go. But it's an interesting little battle system. It might still be a little bit slow just because of the resolution times of the actions, but it was pretty fun.
Sounds pretty interesting. I think I would enjoy that. I mean, I'm a big guy for strategy games. I really like RTSs and turn-based strategy games, I guess. I like that shit.
Yep. Okay, but yeah, that was my week. So I guess we'll move on to news at this point. And I found out, I did actually know of this, but I wasn't sure of the details of it. But Neil Gaiman is making a video game, and it comes out July 15th. So likely, by the time this episode comes out, it's possible the game is already out or about to come out.
We have discussed that it is currently July 10th. We've discussed this.
It's coming. It's called The Wayward Manor. I'm not actually sure of anything about it, except that Neil Gaiman is writing and doing something for it, which means I will probably buy it because I own pretty much everything else that man has put out, and I love it.
Well, I'm uneducated. Who's Neil Gaiman?
The guy who did Sandman. He wrote Coraline. He wrote The Graveyard Book.
A lot of good stuff.
Okay.
American Gods.
Don't
We
feel bad.
almost saw
I had no idea who he was
Sandman and
either.
American
Okay.
Gods movie, I'm pretty sure, a while back, and it just didn't happen, which is a little unfortunate, but probably a good thing.
I guess-
a lot of people probably would have ruined it.
I guess Sandman is still maybe in development for a TV series.
That would be good, especially with and I know everybody loves Game of Thrones, whatever. I haven't actually watched it, so I'm not going to judge here. But Game of Thrones is paving the way for things like American Gods, or for things like the Silmarillion, or for things like fantasy, supernatural, and sci-fi genres that could make fantastic TV shows. But you know what? That's a completely different conversation. We don't have to have that right now.
I mean, you bring up a good point, at least about this specific one. That Sandman's a very adult sort of story. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of like weird supernatural shit. I mean, the one is pretty much a straight up serial killer story. It is a straight up serial killer story. People go insane and stab themselves in the eyes. It gets pretty dark. John Constantine, the comic book character, he's involved in a few, all around the way, and I'm pretty sure they're coming out with a new Constantine. So there could be crossovers there, so on and so forth. I mean, DC is trying to catch up to Marvel anyways, so they might as well use their IPs, while they can, I guess. But yeah, I found that kind of interesting. John, you watched Doctor Who, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember the episode in one of the newer seasons, the Doctor's wife, the one where the TARDIS turns into a person?
Yes, I do.
Did you like?
I remember that one
Did
too.
you like that episode a whole lot?
I liked it. I mean, I think it was probably one of the more memorable ones.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman wrote that one. That's why it was so
Okay.
good.
That's I actually, now that I know who he is, I can totally see the style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
Neil
episode.
Gaiman's
Yeah,
one of those
it's-
things
it's-
where you know Neil Gaiman, or at least you know his influence upon the sci-fi and fantasy genre. You know he is a thing. You may or may not realize it. I mean, I haven't even really read a lot of his books, and I don't know as much of things about him as Dave does. I mean, I'm the fantasy guy. I could tell you everything about Tolkien and get away with, lying to you if I tried, but I would not do that. But, it's one of those things. That Neil Gaiman has influenced things, especially in, pop culture when it comes to sci-fi shows like Doctor Who.
Well, he has a lot of he takes a lot of cues from Alan Moore too, which is another one of my favorite comic book writers. Obviously, Alan Moore did Watchmen, but he's done League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, not the movie version. I don't want to go into that right
Let's
now.
just put that away in a box and lock it up.
But he also did what amounts to creating the Joker's character. Anytime you think of Batman and the Joker as two sides of the same coin, that sort of comparison is made about them. You have Alan Moore to thank about that. If you've never read The Killing Joke, do. It is fantastic.
I really want to read that.
And if you haven't read The Killing Joke and you've watched the Batman the Animated Series, you have seen the television version of The Killing Joke because it exists and it's fantastic.
But yeah,
From what I understand, it's pretty accurate as well.
I've never actually seen it, and I watched a good deal of the Batman animated series.
You've seen it. If you've watched it, you've
No,
seen it. It's in the first season.
I've watched episodes,
I'm
not
pretty
the
sure.
actual show. You know what I mean? But yeah, Neil Gaiman's really good. If I were to recommend, Sandman is a large undertaking. It's a lot of stuff. I would recommend reading just the first collected. It's called Preludes and Nocturnes, and it's really good. It kind of gives you a feel of how the rest is going to be. If you want, if you're a Neil Gaiman fan and you've never read it, the listeners maybe, Mr. Punch is the greatest graphic novel I've ever read in my entire life, and I've read all the quote unquote big ones. I can't say I've read them all, but I've read a good deal of them, and it's the most.
Well, there's certainly a lot of graphic novels out there. I mean, I feel like any fandom that is limiting a person by saying, "Oh, you haven't read this, you don't know what you're talking about," is attacking a person for I haven't listened to all of the music in the world, but I know a lot about music.
But Mr. Punch is it's based on the Punch and Judy shows of olden times, and but Dave McKean, who's a fantastic artist, he does a lot of pseudo realistic art. It looks like a very claymation art style, but it's all drawn. But he also incorporates real objects and photography, and it is one of the most.
Oh.
He is one of the best artists I've ever seen. He did.
I want to see that really bad.
If you want to see a lot of his art, look at the Sandman covers, or look at the Arkham Asylum that Grant Morrison did a few years ago. That was one I keep meaning to pick up but never have. But he is a fantastic artist, and I literally will pick up pretty much anything that man puts out as well, just because it's so great looking. But yeah, anyways, enough ranting about comic book guys. But yeah, Neil Gaiman's coming out with a game. It's called The Wayward Manor, and it'll be available on Steam for PC and Mac. You can buy it on the Humble Store, where 10% of the proceeds go to charity, so there's that too. But yeah, I guess next on the news docket is, hey guys, guess who's back and nobody gives a shit? Cliffy B.
I don't give a shit.
Cliffy B is back, everybody. Who cares?
I don't care.
Don't really care.
You know, he doesn't like
so
that
moving on
nickname.
to the next bit of news.
Cliffy B. On to more news that people actually care about.
We're just gonna move right past.
What's the
this.
game about?
Forget that we even mentioned
I
it.
don't know. He hasn't revealed anything yet because he's fucking Cliffy B.
No,
So-
we're not. No,
John,
we're
John,
not
So
doing
John.
no,
this.
so he announced that he's announcing a game.
No, John. No.
Yeah, it said his tweet was, "I'm officially coming out of retirement to make video games again," and then, well, I mean, to be fair, he did say, "Stay tuned here for details in the next 7 days." But I didn't care enough to follow up on it, so that's as far
Gotta
as we've
build that
gotten.
hype.
So anyway,
It's like, I don't give a shit. Anyways, Platinum Games is working on a Legend of Korra game.
Holy crap.
Platinum Games. Oh, Legend of Korra. Okay, so here's the thing. I haven't had the time to watch Legend of Korra, like, get into that. Although we all know how fantastic everything involving that is. I don't know what to expect of this, because Platinum has, like, they've been a little, like, rocky in their history.
What the hell are you
What?
talking about? Get
What?
out of here right now. You are banned from this podcast if
Okay.
you talk bad about Platinum.
Kick him from the call.
Well,
Name one thing.
Maybe that's
no,
the
no,
mistake
no,
I
no.
made.
Name one thing where they've been rocky, and I will tell you why you're wrong.
It's just that they've had some legal shit going on. But
Where?
they're still good.
I want specifics.
Well, let me go to Google. Otherwise, we can just cut this, because I don't remember what I'm...
We ain't cutting this shit.
No, you do not badmouth Platinum and get away with it, all right?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Let's just move on, all right? We're moving on from here.
Moving on?
No, we're gonna talk.
This is why I'm
we're
a
gonna talk
special
about
guest.
Legend of Korra and the Platinum Games game.
Okay. These are two things I haven't really paid much attention to, so I really shouldn't be
Yeah,
talking.
but the art style is it's pretty good looking. It looks very close to the. It looks very much like a game that someone is trying to make look like a cartoon, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But it's it looks pretty good. There's a trailer, and it's Platinum, so they probably just like took the Revengeance engine and put Legend of Korra skins over top of it.
Probably.
So you can, just like, I don't know who she fights because I've only watched the first Avatar thing, but they, it looks pretty good. I realize I should probably share some of these news articles with you guys so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. But that's a time for another. That's a correction to make next week. But yeah, I mean, people are pretty big fans of Avatar and such, and I think Platinum can do a really good job because they always do a really good job. Anyways,
Okay.
Yeah,
no one has comments.
I haven't watched any of the show. I might one day. I would probably have to watch the Airbender one because it's based off of that, right? It's like the same
the Last
universe?
Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender is the one before this.
I
Your
know.
girlfriend really likes those, doesn't she, John?
Yes, yeah, she really is into the series. I don't know anything about it really. Well, I've watched the original first 2 seasons or so of the Airbender, but I think that was so long ago now, wasn't it?
Hey guys, do you remember that movie?
No.
Where
Shema Babylon?
Yeah, but I've seen all of Avatar, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It has an amazing ending, and the first season of Korra was decent. I haven't seen the second season at all, and they just started the third season, so I have a lot of catching up to do. I trust Platinum to make a really good game because they always do.
Yeah, even when nobody likes it. God Hand was great, and I hate you all I hate you, Capcom. Anyways, next, did you guys hear that Lindsay Lohan is suing Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar?
Rockstar Games.
So she
Grand
needs
Theft-
money that bad?
Look, okay.
Apparently.
I know I'm really bad at news and knowing things, what with not having internet for a year, but isn't that like a month or two old?
No.
No, it's
Oh,
relatively
then
recent.
maybe it's been several years since I stopped caring about Lindsay Lohan.
Well, I mean,
Everyone
it's been
stopped
several
caring
years since anyone's cared about Lindsay Lohan. Yeah, she's just, you know, I guess she doesn't understand what parody is.
Yeah, she doesn't, and it doesn't even look like her anyway.
I mean, like, on the briefest of glances, maybe, you know, but, you know, if we're gonna start suing people because of that, you know, if vapid celebrities are gonna start suing people because people are making fun of vapid celebrities, I mean, I guess maybe she's more insulting herself for saying that she is that character.
What's terrible is that when I heard about what the character did, I'm like, there's like 4 or 5 different people who fit it.
Yeah, you mean...
I thought it was iJustine when I saw it.
Who's that? Is that...
She's like some stupid YouTuber.
Oh, she went to the same college I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had like a big wall showing her off. I'm like, look how famous she got because she posted a funny video and had nothing to do with PTI.
See, colleges like to do that. They like to claim the fame of people who went there, even if they had nothing to do with their degree or the college itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the college I went to is like, hey guys, the Clarks! And don't Google the Clarks and find out how that has anything to do with the college I went to. And then it's like, yeah! And the Clarks are like, we like the part of the state here. It's
Man,
cool.
You want to know?
And the college is like, yeah, pay attention to us, please.
You want to know?
Please pay attention to us.
You want to know about the Clarks? Man, one of the teachers in John and I's high school was friends with the Clarks. They were fucking everywhere. It was one of the arts teachers. So anytime there was like an art opening, it was just like, hey, the Clarks are here, and I'm like, great, again.
I remember when
they show up to everything in Western Pennsylvania. It's like, hey, we're the Clarks.
Yeah, they walked
again.
Like as we were leaving, they were playing in like the cafeteria.
Yep.
That was the weirdest goddamn time.
Because they're the Clarks. Actually, I don't want anyone to think we're, like, mocking them. I think it's fantastic that they pay attention to their region that they came from and the local roots. That's a great thing. But I think that the fact that cities, municipalities, universities, and local areas take that and, like, latch onto it as a, hey, guys, pay attention to us because of this rock band.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say fuck the Clarks. Because I just want to counteract what you said.
I don't actually care
Me either.
about the Clarks.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying, I think that municipalities grasping to be important is worse than a band showing up at somebody's high school and being cool.
Yeah,
We're not running for president or anything. We probably don't need to talk about the socio-economical demographic issues
to defend the Clarks a little bit from your to defend the Clarks a bit from John's fuck the Clarks stance. I mean, they did do a charity show. They did do a charity show while they were while we were in college and for the area, and you know that's nothing to scoff at. I mean,
okay, fuck them except for that point.
I mean,
okay,
that's what I'm saying. They keep coming back, and that's a good thing. The fact that everyone else keeps using the fact that they keep coming back as a way to say, pay attention to us also, that's not a good thing. You're clinging to the little bit of fame that exists.
But are they only coming back because no one else cares?
yeah.
Look, let me put it this way.
Guys,
the college we went to, the town...
Let's stop talking about the Clarks.
No, I need to have a hard conversation about the motherfucking Clarks.
We can do this. We can do this afterwards.
You guys can have a Clark cast on your own, all right?
It'll be an offshoot of the Hearthstone.
We're going to talk about the Clark bar, right?
It'll be just me
We're
bullshitting
the candy bars.
because I know nothing about them.
All right.
It's about Clark
Next
Kent.
on the list is just the general topic that is going to make us completely original because no one is talking or playing it right now. But Shovel Knight. Once again, we are late to the party.
Yeah,
but,
seriously.
Have you guys seen...
What is Shovel Knight?
No idea what it is.
I don't know what that
Seriously,
is.
you guys haven't seen Shovel Knight at all?
I have.
I have not.
No, I'm actually being sarcastic.
Okay, well, John isn't, so I'm going to explain it for John. Basically, John, take all the good NES games and mix them all into one, and then add some of the bad ones as well, and then
make the bad ones good.
the bad ones good, and then make it about a knight that uses a shovel to kill everybody. And it's
and there you go.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome.
It looks like a really cool game. I'm going to go out a limb here and say that none of us actually own it.
Yep.
Not yet.
So Yacht Club,
send
send us a review copy.
And we will not review it.
No, probably not.
I would.
No, I've
Clearly, I
actually
know
reviewed
nothing
it.
about anything. But hey, man, I was an old school fan of a lot of Mega Man games, and it's the like primary inspiration is Mega Man. It's so much Mega Man that it's goddamn fuck. And then
What?
there's a lot of other shit thrown
Well,
in.
it's a lot of
overall themes
Castlevania
have some-
too.
Yeah, there's some Castlevania in there. There's some Mario 3 in there. Even some of the level design is reminiscent of Super Mario World. Some of the
Well,
upward scrolling levels
And the
are
boss,
pretty reminiscent.
the boss rooms are directly from Mario 3.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a little Mario 3, a little Mega Man in that there's that, and there's, I mean, some of the bosses, not going to say who because spoiler, etc., are pretty reminiscent of, like even their attacks are pretty similar to some of the Mega Man bosses and some of the Castlevania bosses, and it's a lot of everything you love from the 80s and early 90s all at the same time, and if you don't love it, then I don't love you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to make a comparison that not many people have made so far, and that's Ghost and Ghouls.
Ghost and Ghouls.
Yeah, Super-
I've never heard of
That's-
that.
You
never
never
heard
heard
of that?
Super Ghost and
That's
Ghouls?
No.
The one where the guy, like, when he loses his suit of armor and he's wearing just boxers?
No, I've never heard of
Man,
that.
that is a classic.
Okay, it's pretty much, in a lot of ways, it's the predecessor to Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Oh,
in a weird
okay.
way.
We are a
weird
well-informed
way.
podcast.
It's more of a swords and attacking shit going on, whereas Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a lot of goofy things. I mean, there's guns and chainsaws and squirt guns going on. It's a little bit different, but it's got some of the similar concepts going on.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm guessing all of the ones that have heard about it are at least interested in buying it. I know I saw it during the Steam sale and said, oh, I should buy that later. And then the Steam sale ended, so I was kind of like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that was my problem. Is I didn't pick it up during the Steam sale, and that was a dumb idea.
Yeah.
It's actually, I'm looking at a video or the trailer on mute here, and it looks pretty cool. I like the art.
Yeah, and they
Yeah, the art's really nice.
they claim a lot of it is basically like they're trying not to surpass the technical abilities of, like, say, the NES. Like, they're trying to keep themselves within that. And, like, I know a lot of the like the one mini boss is just like a giant half asleep dragon, and it's like on a completely black background, like you would see in like an old Mario game or something, where like they had to make the boss the background to make it that big, like stuff like that. And it looks really cool, and all of it looks really, really fun. But once again, none of us have played it, so we're doing this thing again.
I want to back up a moment before I look real stupid and people get at me, and that understanding that Ghosts and Ghouls and before that, the games that came before that are all Capcom, and that Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a different producer, and I understand these are different and come from different people, but that they have similar concepts, and that's, important. I just want to say, I'm not that stupid, although I'm pretty stupid sometimes.
I think you're vastly overestimating the anger that we're going to get for anything we say in this.
Or
This
the
is the internet.
expectations that people have of us. You got to remember that too.
Man, one is Capcom and one is Konami. That's going to piss a lot of people off.
Man, after the first episode, I had people with pitchforks and torches at my door. It was crazy.
Oh shit, man! They have to go through 3 doors just to get to me, and then hope that I'm actually home because I'm never fucking home.
All right. Well, the last thing.
Also, I shoot pretty well with an M16, so just don't.
He doesn't own one though, so you're probably safe.
Yeah, but I also.
So if you come
I'm
with
pretty
an
good with my
M16,
fists.
he's going to take it off you and shoot you with it.
Well, I do know how to take the weapon away from you, so yeah. There
At
we
50
go.
yards?
Oh, well, no. At 50 yards, I'm probably
With
good.
mind the bullets.
I don't...
Mind bullets.
Okay, well,
That's telekinesis.
Tenacious D references aside, last on the list here, have you guys watched the newest Sequelitis?
Yes.
No.
Indeed, yes. I think we can all agree it's awesome.
I actually sort of disagree. The Mega Man one and the Castlevania one were a lot more like talking about games being made and like why they're good for being made that way and like what was improved. And this was more just kind of like, I don't like this because
Fuck Ocarina of Time.
it wasn't even.
You know what? I'm going to go and agree with you.
It
on
wasn't
that.
even like fuck Ocarina of Time because he definitely backpedaled a whole shitload not to get the nerd rage on him as much. But
Right.
And then he just shit on Skyward Sword a whole lot because that would also calm everyone down. But like, it was very much so like he didn't talk about like the game mechanics and everything like that, and like the reason they were made the way they are, and it also he complains a lot about the level design and everything, and it was very much a transitional game. As far as Zelda goes, it went very much from 2D to 3D on that game because that was literally the first 3D Zelda game, and it was it can be, granted, it should be learned from, that there are some mistakes, but it should be also forgiven because of the infancy of 3D. I mean, at the time, GoldenEye only had 2 axes of aiming, and the rest was auto aim, so we hadn't even worked out the dual joystick thing yet. So, people like to look around 3D rooms at that point, so hiding secrets just on the ceiling was a new and novel thing because you couldn't always see them, and as I said, it's a lot. He said a lot of stuff that should be learned from.
Okay.
But definitely, the game can be forgiven for a lot of things that today wouldn't hold up in a game because of its time period. Anyways, go ahead.
So I'm gonna take what you said there, and I'm gonna move on from it, and say today those things wouldn't hold up, except that since then those things have become the staple, the expectation. Whereas in Wind Waker, in Twilight Princess, I actually haven't played Skyward Sword, so I'm not gonna touch on that. A lot of those concepts remain, where looking around the room, finding an eyeball, and shooting it with an arrow is still considered a puzzle. And if that was transitional, why is it still the norm? That's the thing that I would like to bring up. But more to the point, I understand that Ocarina of Time was embarking into new territory, and Nick and I have talked about a lot of this offline before this even happened, before I even entered this. And I'm a big fan of Wind Waker. I played Ocarina of Time, I played A Link to the Past. Link to the Past was my first Zelda game a long time ago, so it's not like I jumped in at Wind Waker. I think Wind Waker is the best one to its date, possibly to date. That's a debate. But I want to say that there are games that have done the 3D leap better. And I'm going to simply say Metroid Prime and walk away from that and just leave it there.
Metal Gear Solid.
But Metal Gear Solid, yes, but Metal Gear Solid is... The Metal Gear series 1 and 2, as opposed to Metal Gear Solid series, are very different in a lot of ways, and that's a different thing. But I think that in this Sequelitis episode that we're talking about and that we're referencing here, the main point that I want to bring away from it is that there is a separation between exploration and combat. Whereas in previous Zelda games, and in a lot of the handheld Zelda games to happen previously, and even after that, those things aren't separate from each other. Even if you play some of the Zelda games come afterward, like if you play, what's the handheld game based in the same timeline as Wind Waker that's got the train thing, Spirit Tracks? Or am I thinking of the one before that, in which there's that one stupid dungeon that resets every time you play it? Anyway, it's got mechanics of older games where you don't have to use those 3D features to look around, and it doesn't make you stop and look around for a moment to do puzzles, and then stop again, and then go back to combat. I think that's a legitimate argument. Does that make Ocarina of Time a bad game? Not necessarily. I would say it makes it a different game. It definitely makes it a different game. Did I enjoy Ocarina of Time? Yeah, I loved it. I think Wind Waker is pretty much the polished up version of Ocarina of Time. And I think that they're all good games. It's just one of those things where we have to sit down and say, does this make it bad or does it make it different? It makes it different for sure, but it's still, it's still a good thing.
Okay, well, I agree with you, but as far as like the polarity of this whole Sequelitis thing and whatever, like Dave doesn't think that it didn't have like as good points as the other Sequelitis, and you think it does. I really think that what it comes down to is what he said at the end, is that I hope I made you laugh and I hope I made you think. Like, that's really all it's there to do. He's just an entertainer,
That's a pretty solid point, but going back to his Mega Man Sequelitis episodes, he spent a lot of time talking about game design, talking about level design, talking about what Mega Man X brought to the series that was different from the original Mega Man games, why this was different, why this was better, and then in Castlevania, like, there was a significant portion in which all Aaron did was talk about how the whip changed everything.
Yeah.
How having a whip that you can attack on diagonals changed everything and made the game easy as pie and took away that difficulty that existed in the first game. And it wasn't false difficulty. It was limitations of the system in retrospect. Yes, we can do it differently now, but that doesn't mean we should allow that and then not compensate for it in different difficulty. For example, a lot of people think Super Metroid is the best Metroid game. I'm not going to say yes or no. Personally, I think Metroid Prime brings a lot more to the series than Super Metroid does, although Super Metroid is my personal favorite. Super Metroid allowed you to shoot at angles, but it was still a game that had its challenge. It was still a game that had its enjoyment and its fun, its exploration aspects. And with comparison to the first Metroid game, or even Metroid 2, it brings new things while still being challenging. And that's where I liked his previous Sequelitis episodes, where he talked about how the changes either brought things to it or brought things away from it. I felt like this new one was a lot of bashing on Ocarina of Time for one or two things. But he did bring up a lot of points about certain battles with like, I think it was the Stalfos enemies he talked about, or might have been a few others similar to that, where combat was based upon where you were attacking and how you were attacking. And I'm kind of interested to see his analysis of Skyward Sword, especially since I haven't played it, and I've seen a lot of reviews in which people talk positively about it, and in which people talk negatively about it, and I want to see what he has to say about it and why. That's what I want to see.
By the way, the next one he's doing is Skyward Sword. He said it on the
Right,
panel.
that's what I understand. I mean, I want to say that I love Wind Waker to death. I think Wind Waker brought a lot to the series, especially from the aspect of music. That's my expertise. And more to the point, I feel like Twilight Princess took everything from Wind Waker, and it's just like, here's a game, now have fun. So I haven't played Skyward Sword. That's the point I'm making, so I don't know.
Well, I guess my thing on it is he harps a lot on the exploration and like how long it sort of like how certain areas are blocked off, and I mean it's talking about a certain progression of the game and like you got to have some sort of progression in a game, otherwise it's just a blank slate. Like even Minecraft, where you can literally do anything you want, you know, there's a certain progression to it where you build up your stuff and go from there. I mean,
Punch trees, get wood.
I mean, but you think about like something like Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus probably has a similarly sized overworld sort of thing, and of course the dungeons are just the one boss, but they in themselves are a puzzle, so on and so forth. But
a thing that people don't acknowledge, I want to say real quick, is that Shadow of the Colossus, as being as open as it is and fantastic, one of my favorite games of all time, is very linear. You fight each Colossus in a specific order. That game is extremely linear. I'm just saying that as a fact. You fight each of the 16 Colossi in order, and that's the way you do it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's still a huge world to explore, and that's probably one of the strengths that it has, is that it lets you explore this big world, and like it kind of guides you in the places where you need to go, and in doing that lets you explore it. And I guess what I'm saying about it is like one of the problems, because I've played the original Zelda, and one of the problems I had with it was it didn't have much direction, and a certain amount of linear. We talked about this last week, but a certain amount of linearity, at least in objectives. Without a certain amount of linearity in objectives, you get just a walking around sort of simulator, and that can be fine if the art style is great, or if there's a strong not open-ended story element to it. But if we're talking about a game, which is what Zelda is, then it gets a little bit frustrating or confusing or boring in that you're just walking around the same screens. If you didn't have the instruction booklet for the original Zelda, you might have never known that there were dungeons.
Okay. Mind if I
sure.
put something in there? Being that I'm actually playing through Ocarina of Time right now,
For his first time, by the way.
for my first
I'm happy
time,
to hear that.
I actually kind of love the feeling of not knowing what to do. I miss that. I don't get that in video games anymore.
Well, there's another problem that kind of comes up, and Ocarina kind of starts it in that the and it's not just Zelda, the Nintendo concept of holding your hand, putting everything in bold. You need to go get the bombs, or you need to go to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a Mario example, but it's ripe and full, especially in Mario Sunshine, which I still think is a pretty solid game. It's more and more from the N64 era onward, there's this hand-holding Nintendo thing, and that's been talked about by a lot of people a lot of times previous to this date and this time. It's a thing, but, I mean, Ocarina of Time did it pretty solid, but it was one of the first ones to do it. I still think it's a fantastic game, but I think one of the things of acknowledging, and I think what Dave was getting to, is that the exploration feel in Ocarina of Time is less the, hey, look at the big world we've got, and more, look at the 3D world we've got. You can look at all of the walls. You can see the inside of every building, every cave, every dungeon. Check this out. It's really cool. And not only are we going to allow you to do that, we're going to expect you to do that. That's why you need to look at the walls to find eyeballs to shoot at. I mentioned that earlier, and how it seems like such a simple thing, but considering that it was the jump into the 3D age, that was a big deal. And I mentioned before that I think that Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games that jumped the 3D gap, and they also have the advantage that Metroid Prime waited an entire generation. Metroid skipped the Nintendo 64 generation, the PlayStation 1 generation, to jump into 3D, and by doing so, they had a chance to learn from everybody else's mistakes. And in a lot of ways, that's why I think Metroid Prime is so much better. And I understand that as far as standing on the shoulders of giants exists, you got to pay attention to those giants. And that's why I say that Mario 64 is a fantastic game. Ocarina of Time is a fantastic game. The various other 64 games or games on other systems that are comparable, including Metal Gear Solid, which jumped into 3D, all fantastic games for their own reasons. I don't think Ocarina of Time is a bad game. I think it's a different game from A Link to the Past. It follows the same structure from a storyline perspective, whereas it's, and I've said this before, get the 3 things, get the Master Sword, go do the 7 things, go fight the bad guy. But it's not quite that simple. There's more to it than that. There's other things going on, and Ocarina of Time has a lot of collectibles and other side things to do that make the game much broader and much more expansive and much more enjoyable. And I think it's a good game. I still like Link to the Past better personally, and I still think Wind Waker is my personal favorite of the whole series.
John, what do you think?
John, you exist.
I've only played Wind Waker.
Wind Waker's the best.
Okay, I agree.
Well, I guess let's
Done.
How about we do this? How about we broaden the topic to transition to 3D? And I guess what I'll comment on what you were talking about, Bemis, is that it's those things, those puzzle elements where it's look at the wall, find the eye, and shoot it to open the door. They've become cliches. Is the problem I guess I'm seeing? Because, I mean, granted, at that time they were new and different because no one had done them before.
Yes.
But, I
Yes.
mean, there have probably been times where people have seen the original and said, wow, what a cliche, like, anymore it's very simple. I mean, half of the Riddler trophies were pretty much that, like...
Yeah. Well, to jump in here, to anybody out there in the world, TV tropes. I read TV tropes. Okay, good. We got that out of the way. Here's the thing. Just because somebody did it first doesn't mean they did it bad. Just because people imitated them doesn't mean that they were bad to start it. Okay? Technically, there's nothing new under the sun. It all goes back to the goddamn Epic of Gilgamesh. Good luck finding anything new after that. And if you can find something, well, I mean, okay. Very rarely will you find a new concept in storytelling or in presentation of a story. And although it's a visual presentation and an interactive presentation, video games are still a presentation of a storyline. And that's what we need to remember. So when we talk about how finding the puzzle thing is part of the story, you've read that in books. You just haven't realized it. And it's happened time and time again. When it comes down to simple things like Deus Ex Machina happen, or when it comes down to simple things like, barriers. I'm trying to think of a good example from some of my favorite stories, but I'm a big-ass Tolkien nerd, so I can't think of anything pretty regular right now. But, pretty much, there's nothing new, and just because it's not new doesn't make it bad. It's okay to recycle. It's okay to reuse. Now, when it becomes bad, and I'm going to harp on Twilight Princess, because I did not think it was that great of a game. I think Wind Waker was the point where Zelda stopped reaching its peak. Wind Waker took everything from Ocarina of Time and said, here's a new way to present it. Yeah, there were still some of the old dungeon ideas. You still had to push blocks around to do puzzles, but occasionally those blocks were in a triangle shape and you had to push them around like that. That's a new, innovative idea. It's simple, it's small, but it's a change. Sometimes those eyeballs need to be hit with specific weapons, or with an ice weapon or a fire weapon. That's a cool idea, and I know there were ice and fire weapons in Ocarina of Time, but that wasn't used as much. Pretty much they took the 3D element and expanded on it.
Well, I guess
became
what I guess I'm saying though is that they don't always expand on it, and that's where it becomes a problem. Like you're saying, they do the same thing over and over again so many times. It's kind of like the original Metroid. All right, you start off, you have just doors that you have to shoot to open, and then eventually there are missile doors, and then there are like freeze missile doors or whatever, and that within itself did a theme and variation on a very simple game mechanic. And
Right, you are a person, shoot things. Pretty simple.
And what a lot of the problem is that basically, like, whenever God of War came out, do you remember those God of War clones that were just like, hey, this worked, let's make the exact same game? And
a lot of games, yes.
And
it happened with Shadow of the Colossus
and
as
it just got, it just gets boring, and
You know what? To talk in the Metroid franchise itself, what you're talking about, like, okay, the first thing you get in the first Metroid game is the long shot. And that exists because, whatever, it allows you to shoot further. You don't have to get it in Super Metroid. You don't have to. You don't have to get it in Metroid Zero Mission. Zero Mission compensates for that by giving you the Zero Suit version of Samus and making it a storyline element, which is a fantastic thing. I could talk for ages about why Zero Mission is a fantastic reimagining of the first Metroid game, and not a replacement for it. But that's separate. Super Metroid approaches that from a different way, and there's a lot of things that you earn similarly to the first Metroid game. Metroid Prime does a lot of other things, but it's a lot of the same things in the same order. What I feel about the Zelda games is that it becomes really stale really quick. And I was going to say about Twilight Princess is that Twilight Princess just felt old to me. I did not really enjoy the game. I played it all the way through. I beat the final boss. I collected just about everything, not everything in the game. And I just got to the point where I'm just like, why am I still playing? I just want to finish this game and get done with it. It's how I feel about some games that recycle the same formula. Now, some games reimagine the same formula. I want to talk very recently about a game I played. I mean, everybody probably last fall played, not everyone. Hang on. Brain. Work. Hang on. I know, it's an issue we all have sometimes. But, Square Enix, RPG.
Bravely Default?
Yeah, Bravely Default. I love Bravely Default. I own Bravely Default. I played Bravely Default. It's fantastic. It's every Final Fantasy game, probably up through Final Fantasy V. Just like, here's this. Enjoy it. Have fun. That's not a bad thing that it's a reimagining. And to go back to Shovel Knight, we mentioned Shovel Knight earlier. Shovel Knight is not a bad game. Find a person who says it's a bad game and watch them get laughed out. It's a fantastic game, and, I mean, it's fantastic because it builds upon earlier concepts and fantastic concepts. So one of the failings, I think, of the Zelda series, and trying to get back to what the original topic was about the leap into 3D, and specifically Ocarina of Time, Zelda 64, is that sometimes they feel stale while making that leap. And there are games that have done it without feeling stale. We all love MGS here. Metal Gear Solid jumps without feeling stale by giving you things like the ability to look around and staying in a stealth environment, and it's a stealthing game. Zelda, on the other hand, is not a stealthing game. You're supposed to be in the action, and that's how I feel like it didn't really make that. It's not that, okay, I don't want to say it didn't make the jump. It made the jump, and it made the jump fantastically. I feel like it's one of those things where we shouldn't compare them. I mean, you've got things like Sonic, where the jump into 3D just... It wasn't so much a jump, so much as a leap of faith, and it just so happened that there was a big black chasm waiting for them. And that happens sometimes.
Well, John, you're a big fan of Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic 1 and 2. What is your opinion on on Sonic going to 3D? Like, where do you think they went wrong? I mean, you're as close to an expert on Sonic we're gonna get in the four of us.
I think they got it wrong by having the momentum entirely wrong. In movement, they were all about just going as fast as possible to be impressive.
Well, that's because that's what Sonic
You gotta
was.
go fast.
And in a lot of ways, not just Sonic. That's what Mario was. You can breeze through Mario 3 without stopping if you do it right. There's tons of... I mean, it's an old game now. There's tons of videos of speedruns out there in which some guy just blitzes through the game in 5 minutes and just does not stop the entire time because the game was designed to be played where you kept on running because it was a competitor to Sonic. And what Sonic was literally a game where you did not stop running.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you. Go ahead, John.
Or I was about to say is that what I meant by momentum was not that, the level wasn't designed to run fast the whole time. It was where in the 3D Sonic games, you're either stopped or you're going full speed. Where the Genesis games, there was a momentum. You built up speed. And it wasn't just, like, stupid.
Well, in the first one, did
know
you
what?
even, like, you couldn't even get up to speed unless you had rings, right?
No, it was more like you had to roll a lot more, like downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say I didn't play a lot of the 3D Sonic games, but what I did play of them, I felt like I really enjoyed the periods where it was more platforming, more running around in 3D, ramping up stuff, going around loops, and then eventually you'd stop, and now you're in an open area and you have to fight some enemies before you can move on. And that's the stuff that I'm like, oh, great, I have to do this now, again. And I feel like a lot of, like, that's the problem with Sonic in a 3D world, is they're like, hey, we want you to fight enemies, when all I really want to do is run around. I mean, that's all I really want.
What could be worse? It could have been Bubsy 3D. And if you've ever seen
Oh,
Bubsy
God.
3D, it is one of the worst games I've ever played. But
Everything could be worse.
I guess, have you guys ever actually played any of the Metal Gear games? Metal Gear 1 or 2?
I've played
I played a
bit
little
of it.
Metal Gear
I've
1.
played
And
most of Metal Gear 1, but I've yet to really get too far in Metal Gear 2.
All I remember is the shot maker. He makes the shots.
I've played all the way through Metal Gear 2 with, I believe, Snake Plissken's translation. And I'm actually going to say that Metal Gear Solid has probably made one of the most seamless transitions from 2D to 3D, because the only thing that's really different
Definitely.
is the camera angle in that game. Like, looking back on it, like, Metal Gear Solid is basically Metal Gear 2 just barely up-resed into 3D. Like, a lot of the... I mean, you can rotate you can't even rotate the camera any bit, you know. The only thing you can do different is look first person. And it's pretty much the only difference in the gameplay. Except for, of course, the processing power, the amount of bullets you can fire, the way certain weapons work, but, you know, that was just developing them and adapting them to a 3D environment. You know, and I haven't played too much of Metal Gear 1, but the bit I have, it's also very similar to Metal Gear Solid's formula.
Yeah, it
and
is.
gameplay style.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of a game that made the jump really well. And I do want to... I keep coming back to Metroid Prime. I think Metroid Prime, but mostly because they had an entire generation of gap to analyze what everyone else did. Metroid Prime made the jump really well, but Metroid Prime also made the jump differently. Whereas everybody else stayed a third-person game, Zelda, Sonic, Mario, Metal Gear, all of the examples we've been using today, even new games entering the environment at the time, like Crash Bandicoot, were all keeping with the third-person view. Metroid Prime decided, screw it all, we're going with first person because whatever. Because isn't this what you always wanted, was to play the game from Samus's perspective? And it worked fantastically, it worked perfectly, and it possibly made it the best game of the franchise, in my personal opinion. In that the fact that I could play from that perspective, and I felt like I was in the game. In a lot of ways, it predated a lot of first-person games other than shooters, other than like Doom and Quake and stuff like that. And there wasn't as much, depth to... I'm not knocking Doom,
Okay,
You
the
please
depth
don't.
of story.
You're gonna have a big
Nick,
problem if you
Nick,
do.
I know the can of worms I'm
John,
opening.
John?
But Metroid Prime has
What?
a much deeper
You're the
story.
And then John was the demons.
Yes. And then John was a zombie. But I feel like Metroid Prime made the jump the best. Metroid Prime or Metal Gear Solid. Metroid Prime definitely made the jump the best out of the Nintendo franchises. Mario was the first to make the jump, and Mario did it well. Zelda made the jump next, and Zelda did really well as well. But Metroid took its time, and as opposed to making the jump early, Metroid waited long enough to make the jump well. And that's why I love those games, especially Prime 1, is that it takes the time to stop and say, we're going to form a great 3D game around this concept of exploration. And they give you a 3D exploration. If I had one drawback to say, it's that if you put that game down for a month and then come back to it, you will be lost as hell. Because there's so much shit. You're like, where do I go? What's going on? I don't remember where I was.
Dark Souls
There's
is the same way.
backtracking. But the thing about that is, backtracking is Metroid. That's what Super Metroid had. That's what even Metroid 1 had. There's so much backtracking. If you step away from the game for a long period of time, that's what happens. Whereas if you step away from Mario 64 and walk back, you can go up to a painting and jump in and be like, oh, I collected 4 out of 5 stars here. All I have to do is collect the 5th star. It's not like that in Metroid. And, in a lot of ways, modern games are traditionally following that concept in Metroid, where you can walk back to it and be like, shit, I don't remember. Like, that actually happened to me. I stopped playing the game for a few weeks and came back to it in Metroid Prime, and I'm like, oh god, no. I don't remember where I'm supposed to go
And
now.
that's why.
And I got really
That's
confused.
why Metal Gear Solid always had those recaps when you loaded up the saves, which were awesome.
Yeah. Well, it might have also been that I was young and stupid and, missed a lot of stuff. But I'm pretty sure there were arrows on the map that told you where to go, but I was dumb and a child and all of that. Well, I wasn't a child, but, teenagers are barely smarter than children.
Bemis, I just have a question.
Alienates fan base.
Bemis, I just have
Go
a
on.
question for you. Do you like Metroid Prime at all?
I think it's a horrible game.
Yeah, fuck that game.
Okay.
I think that I'm glad that it is canonically eliminated thanks to the wonderful game called Other M, which is the best game in the franchise. Everyone should play Other M.
There's so I
If
know you're
anyone
being
skipped to
sarcastic
this
right
point-
now, but that just
Thank you for
that
stating it.
infuriates me. Like I don't even care that you're joking. The fact that those words have come out of your mouth, you could say them.
Let me
You
just
could
say
say
this,
them
Dave.
in the most sarcastic tone you can muster, and I would still be furious about that just because of the train wreck
Dave,
that is Other M.
let me just say right now, my body is currently spontaneously combusting because of how much blasphemy I just spat.
And the worst part about Other M is that Metroid Fusion started the whole thing. The whole Adam Malkovich storyline, it started in Metroid Fusion.
Oh, Metroid Fusion.
The whole him
Metroid
calling her
Fusion.
lady thing, it was in
It's
Metroid
so good
Fusion.
but so bad.
It's so painful.
It's so good but so bad at the same time. So, as a short aside about Other M, one of the points that Other M missed that Metroid Prime made a good thing of is how fantastic that first-person view story and exploration concept is. Other M missed that entirely, and it's completely missing because, guess what? It's Team Ninja! Whatever. But that's one of the things that made Metroid Prime so fantastic.
The other thing they missed entirely was the fact on the original design document for Metroid, the one thing they wrote near Samus's feet was, she is not wearing high heels. And what did they do? They gave her high heels.
Right. Well, there's been a lot of talk about Samus Aran as the original female empowered character. Why she's so fantastic. And, I don't like using the phrase, I've got a huge boner for Metroid. But, I love Metroid. And I do, for a lot of the right reasons. One, that it is a female empowered character through Samus Aran. Another, that it is a staple of video games nowadays, and that it revolutionized the explorative genre. They don't call it Metroidvania for a reason. 90% of Metroidvania is Metroid. Only about 10% of that is Castlevania, because a true Castlevania game isn't really Metroidvania, which is more about collecting items. The first Castlevania game is not all about collecting items, like the Metroid games are. But Metroid revolutionized a lot of shit, and it's a great game. And I feel like it's a completely different conversation for another time.
you know how you said you didn't want to use the phrase "I have a boner for Metroid"? You just literally talked for like half an hour about Metroid, so you've heavily implied that you have a boner for Metroid.
Look, Metroid is some good shit. Metroid Prime is some super goddamn
We
good
know.
shit. Super Metroid is fucking awesome.
Jesus
Don't
Christ!
like it? Get out. Yes.
So
That's
wait,
a half hour holding and just holy shit.
all right.
About to jump to 3D.
Shut up.
Some games did good, some games did
Don't
bad.
give a shit
Yeah.
anymore. Let's move on.
John, what is
We
your
have things to
feelings
move
on
on to.
these things?
John, just let it out.
John,
Just let it out.
Bemis, you're not allowed to talk. John's gonna just ramble for
I'm
2
so
minutes.
sorry, John. I forgot you haven't talked for like an hour.
Anyways, John, talk. Just say whatever you want. The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
I don't even know what the hell. I lost focus halfway through that, and then came back in, and we're still talking about the same thing, and I don't know.
Look, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
I didn't mean
That's
to.
fine.
It's okay. I just had to.
Sometimes I'm an idiot, and sometimes I talk a lot.
Sometimes you have a boner for Metroid Prime. It's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, after making a fool of myself about an hour and a half ago, I felt like I had to redeem myself by talking about shit.
I mean, the air cylinder in this chair just broke while you were talking, so
Nice.
I am stuck at the lowest. This chair is too small for me now, and I just bought it recently.
Nice.
Since my past confusion and dumbness, I looked up about Platinum. I'm like, hey, they made a whole bunch of games that I didn't play that I heard were really good. So I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that. Turns out Platinum made a whole bunch of games that I didn't play that were apparently
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll play those games. Like, I'll do that. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You should
I
play
apologize.
the Metal Gear. Did you play it? Rising.
Revengeance? No, not yet. I'm sorry. I don't really feel like having my entire life ruined by how awesome that is. I watched videos. I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. I need
Rules
this.
of
And I'm like,
nature.
The moment where you actually understand the parrying system is so satisfying.
John, I could talk for ages about how amazing that music is. It's like...
Well, Metal Gear
Okay,
Solid
he
always
just
has
had
good
a
Davis
stroke.
died! No! Someone call a paramedic.
Someone call a paramedic. Ah!
Ah, there we go.
Anyways,
Just please.
I guess we'll get off the topic now since we've been talking for a good deal of time about it. Well, at least one of us has.
Indeed.
Um,
I'm so
it's
sorry.
all right.
Okay.
That's the
Let's go.
So I guess we'll kind of do a wrap up now. I'll let John go first since he's been sitting there patiently, kind of. John, do you have anything to recommend and or what you're going to do in the next week?
No,
Are you gonna watch more Star Wars?
I don't know if in the next week, but I don't want to recommend something. I want to unrecommend something.
Oh.
I saw a trailer for the movie Lucy,
Oh God, yes.
and that movie is based on the premise that humans only use 10% of their brain, and then this woman managed to unlock all of it.
Oh my god, she's a normal person.
And it stars Morgan Freeman and Scarlett Johansson in what is the obvious. Let's put a bunch of stars in
Oh,
this because this
man.
movie's not going to sell.
Morgan Freeman
But
says
those
the
are
line.
two people I like.
He literally says the line in the trailer. She is the first person to ever use more than 10% of her brain, and I wanted to
But
just.
that's not even science.
I wanted to throw my monitor out of the window.
No, John, no.
Now,
No.
you know what they could do to fix this movie? Besides, what they need to do is get rid of
They
that
burned the
entirely.
film.
No, get rid of that concept entirely in the plot of the film and just make it that she took a drug that made her a superhuman. And then it would be an okay movie. But that
It's
just
not based-
ruins it.
Or they could just end it all with, it was all a dream thought up by somebody who doesn't understand neuroscience.
Well, technically,
They
that's
need
kind
a
of what it is.
disclaimer, like,
Well, that's
hey,
the idea.
hey guys, this isn't how science actually works. Please stop spreading that damn myth. I saw an ad recently for like this alternative medicine college. It opens up with like,
Dear God.
scientists say that humans only use 25% of the brain and only speculate what can happen if we unlocked all of it. And then it's like, go to this
Clinic.
go to this place to learn alternative medicine. And I'm like, I feel so bad for any suckers who go to that
This is
place.
not good. Scientists, *, say that vaccines cause autism. By the way, people, vaccines don't cause autism. If you think that and you're listening to this, go, please.
Go get whooping cough.
Just go get whooping cough over and over again. Because guess what? Getting whooping cough once will not make you immune. You'll get it again and again and again. Also, your children are probably liable to infect the rest of your children.
Enough
you.
vaccine talk.
Anyway, basically what I'm saying
enough
is
vaccine.
the asterisk means not scientists.
Fuck that movie.
Yep.
Fuck
Yep,
that movie.
Fuck that movie.
I don't even need to watch the trailer to agree with you.
Nick, how about you?
Okay, I definitely highly recommend Deus Ex Human Revolution, especially for John, because he was talking the other week about how the hacking was a little disappointing in Watch Dogs, and this game, Deus Ex, has probably the best hacking I've seen in any game. Every single time you hack something, it's a challenge, and it's awesome. The minigame is really fun, but other than that, it's just awesome. Play it.
And Bemis, I'm going to put you on a limit here. In less than 10 sentences, all right?
I have my thumbs
Okay. In less than 10
What?
sentences, what are you going to do in the next week, and do you recommend anything to the people?
I'm going to play Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition because Nick bought it for me during the Steam sale, and I really think that I should go ahead and do that.
Yes.
I'm going to play more Age of Empires 2 HD Edition and feel really bad about how I'm not as good at this game as I was 10 years ago. I'm going to maybe play System Shock 2 because I bought it for like $1.50, and I mean, it was like $1.50. I might as well play it because it was like $1.50. That was only 3 sentences. That was the 4th sentence.
That was way
Shit.
more.
That
was way more than 4
so
sentences.
now I'm up to 7
I'm calling that out
sentences,
right now.
9 sentences.
I'm calling the
And that's
police.
the end of that
Shut
now?
up.
Okay, done.
All right.
I'm calling the police right now.
As for me, I also fuck the movie Lucy. The movie 2001: A Space Odyssey is really, really good if you like slower paced film. If you can sit through slower paced films, it's amazing. It's a little hard to get through, but you can if you put your mind to it and you're not half asleep, you can do it. Also, all of Kubrick's other works and the book for 2001: A Space Odyssey is really good. Also, that game I was talking about, Sunless Sea. If you like sort of resource management sort of strategy game about sort of boats on an ocean kind of thing, it's a really fun game. As I said, the combat's a little weird at first, but once you get used to it, it's actually pretty engaging. It's a lot of back and forth, sort of, parry and dodge kind of bullshit. But it gets really engaging, and it's a pretty cool story. And it's in early access because he says he's going to add more content to it. And actually,
Now, Dave,
just today there was an update for it, so I guess he's holding true to his word. Yes, Venus?
let everyone know real quick, since you've become a pretty good advocate of this game, it appears. Where is this available?
Steam.
It is on Steam, because what is it? Sunless Sea.
Yeah, like ocean, sea, S-E-A.
Yes, unless you're in Germany, then you spell sea wrong. I mean, you spell sea.
I'm sure we're all not in Germany.
I'm in Germany.
None of us are in Germany. Well, I mean, no, you're in Ohio right now, for the time being. So yeah, Sunless Sea. I think that I'm gonna add to my list and say I'm gonna try and check that out if it's not too expensive.
All right. Well, that wasn't a complete disaster, I guess.
Yeah.
It could have been better. Could have been worse.
I didn't totally force myself
Are you
into the.
forgetting
control.
something?
Huh?
Are you forgetting something?
Oh, yes, I am. Because once again, I forgot about the emails until the last second. But this
Damn.
time I read it beforehand. We actually got an email this time. All right? It's from John. How do you pronounce his name?
I have never heard him say it, but I think it's the Alga Dude.
Yeah, he also says, or dial the dude.
Dial a Dude? Okay.
Dial the dude, I guess. Is
Well, his game facts name is Dialga Dude,
so,
based off the Pokemon.
Oh, did not know that. But
Boom.
he sent us an email. He's a fellow GameFAQs mod with you, I guess. He sent us a pretty impressive list of games that he got on a $100 budget. and complains that he bought Wolfenstein a little early. But he asks us a quick question, and I don't know if we're super prepared for this. And we'll expand it to just kind of games we know that are coming up. But he's asking games released this year or will be released. What do you think is a strong Game of the Year contender and why? I guess everyone pick one game. Nobody say Metal Gear Solid 5 because we all know that's one we're gonna put in there.
It's not coming out this year.
Well, I know. I just mean kind of in the near-ish future. What's going to be a good contender for Game of the Year? Nick, go.
As far as games out right now, definitely Dark Souls 2. That is by far the best game I've played this year so far. It's not as good as the first Dark Souls, in my opinion, but it's still a very solid game, and it does. It is a sequel in every sense of the word, and it builds upon certain things that the first game had and expands on it. And Drangleic is beautiful, the combat's hard, the bosses are great. So, as far as that goes, games out right now, Dark Souls 2 is my game of the year so far.
Cool.
Games coming out, I would say it would surprise me if it was so good that it would be my game of the year, and that would be Destiny. And that is because Bungie is known to just release bombshells. I mean, look at Halo.
Yep.
It just completely changed everything in 2003 or 4 or whatever that was. And
Good music, by the way.
great music.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as that goes, definitely Destiny. That looks promising, but I'm not going to hold my breath because, I don't know, I've been disappointed before with big budget releases.
Yep.
So,
All right, Bemis. One game now
Oh,
and one in
my.
the future coming up.
Oh, dear. Well, I want to preface this by saying that I only recently had internet again since last October. And I don't really have a good system other than my laptop, which is not all that great. So, I haven't been following. I'm sorry, but I have not. I'm only just now getting myself back into the gaming culture, and it's a sad thing that I miss so much. So, I'm looking forward. I like to break the rules. So screw you, Dave. I'm looking forward to MGS5. I really am, though.
it might not be coming out this year, though.
It's not coming out
Boom!
this year.
So,
I don't think.
Boom!
Oh. Well, that takes away all the things I had to say about things.
Okay, good. Okay, so
Maybe if they make a good Metroid game.
All right, John.
all right. For games that are out right now, I'm gonna go with Hearthstone.
I hate you. I hate you, John.
Get out, you're fired.
No, well, yeah, probably right now that is my game of the year because I've played so damn much of it. But I would say probably I was gonna go with Destiny ever since the question was first brought up before we started recording. I think that game is doing something different with existing ideas,
Something we were talking about earlier.
but
Yeah,
in a
cool.
really, really good way. I played that alpha, which is just a different name for beta.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a real alpha. We talked about that last week,
Yeah.
I think. Last
Yeah,
time.
we did.
But yeah, I think that game is. I think their plan is to have it last 10 years, the entire console generation.
That's what they said before when it was first announced, and people were like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
I can see how they can make that happen.
Yeah, now I can see how they can make it happen.
Hey, John, shoot me some links, okay? I want to check this out.
Okay.
I guess for me, I don't actually know what games have come out recently, but I'd say because of my preference for their games, Bayo 2. I know that's next year, but I don't give a shit. Bayo 2 I'm looking forward to just because I love Bayo 1. I still have to beat it, of course, but I got to a hard part, and it was hard, and I'm bad. But that was Bayo 1 was really, really good. It was a cool story. It didn't feel scummy that she was super sexualized. It just seemed like that was just her, which is a nice sort of change of pace. Other than that, I don't care about Destiny. I'm going to say that out loud.
Okay, that's totally fine.
I don't really care about it. I guess I'm looking forward to Battlefront 3 as well, but that's because...
But that's not coming out
I don't
for,
care,
like,
Nick!
2016.
I'm still looking forward
It's
to it.
never coming out. They're just going to resell all of the freaking properties. Fuck it.
Well, so I guess in the end,
I don't believe that.
Dialga Dude, I'm sorry that we're so ill-informed about games, and
We'll see.
everyone else listening.
We're a
I'm
gaming
also
podcast,
sorry
uninformed.
that we're all terrible at this. We only have
I promise to read news.
we only have a video game podcast. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up episode 7 here of the Starmine podcast. Thank you all for listening. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
I'm sad my chair broke.
Hey, bye. I'm going to go play some freaking games.
I'm really sad my chair broke.
Rest in pieces, John's chair.
Oh, I gotta buy one.